Welcome to Looking For. Today we are going to discuss the underground development of big cities. Often assimilated to hostile places, underground universes fascinate, intrigue, and sometimes bring us back to a post-apocalyptic vision where men would have to escape from the surface, either because of the radiation provoked by a third nuclear world war, or to survive a possible uprising of the machines, as in Matrix, where the city of Zion was built very deeply to escape their tyranny. But in works of fiction, this reference to underground cities is not something new. In the 1950s, the famous writer Isaac Asimov, at the origin of the three laws of robotics, had imagined in the cycle of the Empire, the city of Trentor, the capital of the Galactic Empire, with 40 billion residents and an underground urbanization going up to 3 kilometers deep. And for the record, this planet city has even given its name to an avant-garde urban planning term, a cumenopolis, which refers to the fusion of all urban areas on a global scale. In fact, this is what the planet city of Coruscant looks like, which appears many times in the Star Wars universe. But let's come back to Earth, because today I would like to tell you about a few realistic projects that will change our vision of urbanism. For the moment, they are limited to subway stations, tunnels, or parking lots. But the underground spaces of big cities could in the future become quite favorable for work, housing, or even cultural and sports life. Indeed, the attraction for underground space is growing, especially in saturated metropolitan areas, which are experiencing a steady increase in land prices. Even more so when you consider the demographic forecasts for 2050, with 70% of city dwellers against 55% today. But in addition to limiting urban sprawl and the opportunity to create new living spaces, there are other reasons to explore the underground of cities. Due to a constant temperature throughout the year, the underground spaces of cities are great locations to develop to escape the hostile climates of certain regions of the world, such as extreme temperatures and high humidity. The best example is Canada, where the thermometer often falls below -30 degrees Celsius in winter and can reach absolute heat records in summer, as we saw recently in June 2021 with temperatures that were close to 50 degrees. The cities of Montreal and Toronto have anticipated this. Since the 1960s and the 1980s, the largest underground galleries in the world have been built there, each of which extends for nearly 30 kilometers, which allow them to escape the bad weather of the Canadian winter. But the underground space of big cities would also be good places to escape from noise pollution or even the air pollution of large industrialized cities. Two solutions are therefore available for the future development of large metropolitan areas: reinvesting abandoned places or digging new ones. The first option is already being considered by municipalities. In Paris, a project competition was launched in 2017 to redevelop the underside of the city into places for nightlife, sports, or even cultural activities in former metro stations, abandoned tunnels, and former water reservoirs. In 2015, in the city of London, a huge urban farm was built 33 meters below the surface in a former air raid shelter dating from the Second World War. A solution that could soon be extended to other cities concerned about anticipating their food resilience. In New York City, in a former streetcar terminal on the Lower East Side, an underground park project, the Lowline, has developed a technology that allows to capture natural light on the surface and redirect it to the underground through a fiber optic system and reflective mirrors. Thanks to this technology, the designers have succeeded in growing plants in summer and winter. A very promising technology. But there is more. Urban mobility is increasingly moving towards alternative solutions. Some urban planners are already anticipating the abandonment of many parking lots and are considering putting data centers or even archive centers there to free up space on the surface. In any case, it seems that urban planners agree on one thing: to to take inventory of the existing underground occupation of large cities and draw up master plans just as they do on the surface. Today, very few cities do this, and Helsinki was the pioneer in this field. Since the 1980s, the Finnish capital has developed a vast underground network of 10 million square meters where you can find shops, a church, a museum, and even a swimming pool. The city-state of Singapore, which is extremely saturated, is also organizing the use of its underground network. As a major financial hub in Southeast Asia, the city has experienced a steady demographic growth and has even increased its surface area by 25% by building on the sea, like the cities of Dubai and Hong Kong, but has now reached its limits, because fish also need space. Jokes aside, even if they don't go as far as to plan underwater housing, the Singaporean authorities have already limited the private property of the underground up to 30 meters below the surface and are more interested in relocating transport infrastructure or industrial and storage facilities. This would allow them to replace them on the surface with new buildings and create more green spaces. In addition, the city of Singapore began burying its rail network more than 20 years ago and is expected to build an additional 180 kilometers of railway tracks by 2030. It has also started a huge project to bury its military reserves, covering an area of 400 soccer fields. Finally, the waterfront buildings in Marina Bay use a system that circulates cold water in 5 kilometers of underground pipes to cool the buildings, to reduce its energy consumption by 40%. The second and final option for saving space is to create a real city under the city. And it's an architectural firm from Mexico who came to shake up our conception of urbanism 12 years ago with the first earthscraper project to be presented. A project intended to bury in the ground an inverted pyramidal structure in reference to the Aztec culture 300 meters deep under the Zocalo Square in the historic center of Mexico City. This project was born as a response to the extreme land shortage in the capital, added to a growing demand for housing, offices and cultural spaces in this area. In addition, the city's historic buildings are entirely protected by local legislation, with a prohibition on building more than 8 stories high to preserve the aesthetic of the monuments, but also because the seismic risk is very high in this region. But I won't tell you more because that's what I'm talking about in the video that appears right here. I wish you a good discovery and see you very soon on Looking For. Goodbye!